Today I'm going to be showing you a recipe for butter mochi. This is a pretty easy recipe, and it's so worth what little effort it requires, but please check the description for the full list of ingredients and tools you'll need to make this recipe. This video does show everything, but the description has some more details that can help you. Also note that I make my butter mochi a bit differently from the classic, and most of my friends prefer mine to the original, but the description notes the original as well. At this time, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Start off by wiping your oven tray, size noted below, with a pat of butter all around. This ensures that the parchment paper we use later will stay put and that any tears won't lead to catastrophic sticking of the mochi. Once your tray is fully buttered, cover it in parchment paper and press that down until it stays put inside. This recipe uses a full standard-sized box of mochi flour, or 16 ounces, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 cups of sugar. Use a fork to mix these dry ingredients a bit. For the wet ingredients, start off by melting your butter in the microwave for 30 to 45 seconds until fully melted. Then add in the full can of coconut milk, scraping out the good bits until not much is left. Now add the vanilla. You can use anywhere from 1 to 3 teaspoons if you want to measure. I personally have never come across a baked good where I thought, man, this is so good except that it has too much vanilla, so I just wing it and pour a lot in. I do, however, measure out 2 cups of milk. I use almond. Now microwave these wet ingredients before the eggs are added until warm but not hot, about 30 seconds to 1 minute. You want these ingredients to be warm before the flour is added so they don't clump up. Once warm, crack in your 4 eggs. Then use a fork to stir. It's at this moment that I wish I'd used a larger bowl so I'd spill less on my counter, but alas. Pour the wet ingredients into the dry mixing bowl and scoop the good bits out. I use a stand mixer on stir for 30 seconds, then low for a minute. You can also just mix by hand with the spatula and whisk. It'll be very smooth, even, and liquidy when done. Pour the batter into your lined baking sheet. The mochi will rise about 2 times while baking, so make sure that the batter is less than halfway up the sheet. If it's too much, split the batter into 2 sheets. My tray is about as full as it can get without running over when baking. If your batter is higher or tray shorter, consider splitting the batter into another sheet and saving yourself a lot of oven cleanup later. I try to get as much out of the mixing bowl as I possibly can because I know how delicious this is going to be later. And then I run my spatula across the top to make sure that the batter is evenly spread. Now I put the batter into the 350 degree preheated oven. Don't do what I do! I couldn't decide whether to put it in the top or bottom rack, so I ended up sliding it halfway before changing my mind and putting it on the bottom. I don't actually think this matters much, and I easily could have spilled and made a mess here, especially since this batter does go about halfway up my oven tray. This is going to bake for about an hour, but after 40 minutes I come and rotate the oven tray 180 degrees to ensure even baking. If you notice any big bubbles or areas where the mochi is lifting off the sheet, take a fork and rip them. These lifted areas won't caramelize properly and will dry out as butter doesn't properly build up in them either. Be careful not to burn yourself. After another 10 minutes or 50 minutes total, open the oven door and look at the mochi. If it's not golden brown on top, it's not done. Mine isn't here. You can also again use a fork to rip the areas that are lifting too much. I check again after another 10 minutes or 1 hour total, and mine is again not quite as dark as I like it, so I put it back in for 5 more minutes. And now, after 1 hour and 5 minutes in the oven, mine is done. I slide the parchment paper out of the tray onto a clean napkin. This gives the mochi a surface to cool on faster and one that is dry and can prevent steam from building up along the bottom as it cools. After letting the final product cool for 45 minutes, I come to grab my first slice. I'm personally a big fan of the corners because they have more crispy brown bits. I also love the fact that this mochi isn't overwhelmingly thick. The classic recipe is usually about twice as tall as this, which means it has even more chewy middle compared to crusty outside. I like the balance that comes from my method, and most of the friends I've baked for agree. This huge tray lasts me about 3 days, or 2 days if my girlfriend is over. Yes, we eat it that quickly. We just try not to think about the calories. But hey, it's honestly worth it. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. I actually have a fully vegan version of butter mochi that is equally as good as this, so let me know if you want to see that recipe in the comments below. Otherwise, leave a comment below describing your experience with this recipe or what you want to see next.